Well, I'm not going to be on the show.
Hey, y'all. It's Marshall Wilson here. Thanks for coming to hang out with us. Um, and for those of you who are going to watch this later, watch the recording later, thanks for doing that. Want to talk about the primary election that took place yesterday. Um, I hope that y'all were all engaged and paying attention and have been thinking about it since because there are a lot of really interesting observations, interesting to me, that I've made, and I'm very interested in hearing yours. So let's start with voter turnout. Do you realize that little over 30% of the registered voters, that's one in three, less than one in three, actually showed up to vote yesterday? What does that tell you? Well, first of all, people are not engaged, and there are a number of reasons that people might choose not to be engaged. One is that they just don't value elections, but we have to figure they value them enough to register to vote. So apparently they are interested in offering their vote, but maybe they're not interested in offering their vote to anyone who's on the ballot. That's a thought. Another thing is that after years of voting and giving their sacred vote to candidates and to parties and stuff, maybe they're just tired of it. Maybe they're tired of getting the same thing no matter who they vote for. And frankly, that's because I think most people don't understand the way the system actually works. And that's good because it means that you're probably a happier, saner person if you don't actually know how legislative system and votes or elections and all that kind of stuff work, because it's madness. And it actually works against the principles that they tell you that it's all about. So that's one thing. So people have apparently lost interest in voting. Basically, most of the folks that I talk to say that the reason is because it just doesn't matter. There's nothing they can do anyway. Whatever vote they cast is going to be stolen or changed or ignored or whatever, and that even if their vote is counted and the person they actually voted for is put in office, that person's been lying to them the whole time and is not who they claim to be. And frankly, this is the most valid concern because it's just simply true. Um, I've often said that the skill set required to get a political job and the skill set required to do a political job are not only different, they're diametrically opposed. And what I mean by that is to do a political job, a public service job, you have to be humble. You have to know and understand your constitutional duties, and you have to be completely committed to accomplishing those duties, even if it's hard, even if it's it costs you, even if it's dangerous. See, and the idea is that you're supposed to engage in public service for the gratitude of your neighbors because you believe in the mission rather than to become wealthy. I believe it was Benjamin Franklin who made a comment that you can either have good pay with public service or you can have some sort of public approval. But if you get both, then unfortunately you're going to end up with the kind of people in public service that are exactly the opposite of what you want. So the idea is that all right, we're back. To do the job, you have to be humble and focused and mission focused and knowledgeable and strictly honest. You have to actually deal with the facts that are before you, and you have to adjudicate them properly and take the appropriate action. Whereas to get the job, what you got to do is make people feel good about you. You got to get them all excited, make them think you're cool. And frankly, if you know any cool people, they're generally to be cool. You're pretty selfish. You put yourself out there. You are constantly taking attention away from other people and other issues that are important and focusing them on yourself. And those are basically the skills that are required to get the job, generally speaking. And I know that because I've gotten the job a couple of times. So, see, the thing is, I know what my personality type is. I know I'm the kind of guy who walks into a room and starts talking and expects everybody to listen. But see, I know that's wrong. I know that it's unacceptable. And I have good people who surround me who let me know on a regular basis that maybe I should shut up every now and then and let somebody else talk. And, starting with my family, frankly. But the thing is that the people who get out there and put on a show and glad hand everybody and hey, how you doing? Hey, I'm a neighbor. I'm a neighbor from your town, which is what he said, but he said it on purpose to make it sound the way he wanted it to say. But anyway, the people who do that are empty. They lack humility, they lack focus, they lack interest in the actual job, they lack principles. And so they are the exact opposite of the people that we want actually doing the job. So we have a quandary here. The quandary is that the people who are capable of getting the job are the last people we want to do the job, except in very, very rare situations. I mean, very rare. And it's even worse than that, because even when a person who is the guy you want doing the job manages to pull it off and get the job, win the election, things change, because the situation is such that you have to be a very, very strong person. You have to be very focused on what's real and right and true to prevent your being sucked in and becoming one of them. And I know because I was there. And it's hard. It's very hard. And most people don't have the character, they don't have the principles, they don't have the fear of judgment. They don't have the fear, not by people, by God, by the King. They don't fear being held accountable. Now, most of them are not going to find that fear in themselves. So we have to put it into them. We have to hold them accountable. And that leads me to my next point. We fired the president of the Senate, the lieutenant governor of the state, and I am really grateful that we did it. Just to be completely straight with you, it wasn't the candidate that I had hoped would win, but it was a good gentleman anyway, and he fired Craig Blair. So I'm grateful to Tom Willis and his team for winning this election and sending Craig Blair home, because he was an embarrassment and a profoundly compromised individual. He still is, but now he's going home. So that's good. That's good stuff. And hopefully, Patricia Rucker won hers as well, just barely, but she did by about 200 votes, and I'm very happy about that. And the thing is that, what we need to do is make Patricia Rucker our Senate president, our lieutenant governor, and then give her the backing, the support, the encouragement, and, a little nudge every now and then to make sure that she goes ahead and does the job. And while she's at it, investigates what's been going on in the Senate for the past few years. So 30% turnout. People are sick. They're tired. They have given up. They're shrugging at the elections. They're going, what's even the point? And I can understand where they're coming from. But the thing is, I want to be very, very clear about this, okay? If you read history, the history of human interaction, the history of government, you will understand that when a society gets to the point that we're at right now, where the people have no say in their government, the people will rebel. There will be a complete societal collapse and the people will rebel. So what do we have to do? Well, we have to make sure that rebellion is a political rebellion. I hope you understand what I'm saying here. So war is the implementation of any combination of the elements of power to compel someone else or another organization to behave the way that you want them to. That is the definition of war. The implementation of any combination of the elements of power to compel another entity to behave the way you want it to. What are the elements of power? Diplomacy, information, military, economics. All right. Diplomacy, information, military, and economics. Dime. Of course, if it's domestic rather than international, diplomacy, which is just international politics, becomes politics. So politics, information, military, and economics. Pime, which is not as catchy as dime. But frankly, what we want to do is we want to prevent this this historical imperative, or this historical the outcome that is almost certain, which is sooner or later people are going to start fighting over control of their own lives. And I'm not advocating for it. I'm trying to prevent it. My entire purpose for involving myself in politics is to ensure that my kids can raise their kids in a free country and that they don't have to go through a war to do it. So, or a shooting war. So the way we do that is we use the elements of power: politics, information, economics, PIE, P-I-E, right? To compel our government to behave the way that it's supposed to. Politics, we just failed miserably yesterday. 30% of the electorate turned out. 30% of the electorate turned out. So what these people who won their elections are going to do is they're going to run around and tell everybody, I have a mandate from the people. I have a mandate from the people. They don't have a mandate from the people. They won a small scale election in a small population state by the few people who took the time to show up because they actually think that voting matters. I'm one of them. I went and voted. And the rest of my family who are voters who live here went as well. Because I can't stop hoping, because I have to do my duty. So I have to vote. I can't not. I have to run for office. Even though a very good friend of mine who I have trusted for years and who one of the few people I know I actually kind of look up to. There aren't many. He actually told me today, you can't win. That might be true. I don't know. What I do know is I can't quit. Whether I win or not, I can't quit. So let's engage. Let's engage. We have a duty to our kids, to our grandkids, to our society, to our grandfathers who made all of this possible for us. What right do we have to sit on our hands and let this happen? Right? Okay. 30% voter turnout. Pathetic. Unbelievable. All right. Out of a possible 1.2 million registered voters, looks like 358,000 cast their votes. Right? So that means, let's look here. If you want to look at, let's go to governor here. So governor, all right, less than 75,000 people have decided for the state who's going to be the Republican nominee, and most likely, barring our engagement, most likely the governor. 75,000 people. How's that strike you? Out of 1.2 million. You get what I'm saying here? So that's basically, let me see here. That is 1/3 of less than 1/3 of the people in this state, or the registered voters in this state. 1/3 of less than 1/3. And that's what we're letting happen here. Because we don't engage effectively. And you're sitting there and you're going, but I went and voted, Marshall. I did. Hey, I'm with you. That's great. And in a sane time, the system works the way it should and everybody's engaged, that should be enough. But look, we got to go out there and we got to get them. We've got to go out there and find these people who have given up and let them know there is a chance. There is a chance. And then we have to avail ourselves of this chance, get them engaged. So let's go through a few of these if you don't mind. I'm looking at Republican contests for president. Is anybody surprised that Donald Trump won? No? Okay. I was a little surprised at how many votes Nikki Haley got, but All right, here we go. U.S. Senator. 62% of the vote went to Jim Justice. You going to tell me they're not corrupt? You going to tell me they're not compromised? I'm talking about the leadership of the party. Alex Mooney was far behind with less than 27%, 26.5%. Just pathetic. I personally voted for Zane Lawhorn. I knew it was a long shot, but see, I have to vote for the man who I believe should win rather than casting my vote based on who I think everybody else is voting for. So let's talk about that dynamic real quick. We have a situation in the United States where people tend to vote for who they think is going to win. Okay, first of all, you are not engaged in sports betting here, okay? You don't get more money. You don't get more benefits by voting for the guy everybody else is voting for. He's not going to win anything for you. You're not part of his team. He doesn't care about you. Sorry, it's just a fact. I know these people. All right, I worked with them. I know them. The interest here, the system is set up so it's like you're doing sports betting. So you're sitting here and you're going, well, I think that guy's going to win, so I'm gonna cast my vote for him. So they literally win by convincing you that they're going to win. It's magic. Do you get what I'm saying? Because the people will not take the time to look at who's actually running. Even better, to run themselves. And I understand you guys have lives. It's hard. Trust me, I know. But so what happens is, instead of looking at all of the candidates and saying, I'm going to actually research each one of them. We've got a guy who just won the Republican nomination for delegate in South Berkeley County. He's making all kinds of crazy claims, and there's reason to think that some of them aren't very accurate, about himself and his life and everything. And it's kind of funny because I asked a question of some folks and they said, well, you make all kinds of crazy claims. You have a master's degree and you're a combat veteran and you were a preacher in the Amazon jungle. Like, yeah, you got 9 kids. Say, yeah, I do have some crazy claims. The funny thing is I can back them up. So yeah, if you ever have any questions about my claims about my background, just challenge me and I'll go, here's the answer right here. Here's documentation. Here are my kids. Whatever it is you want to know, it's all right there. Right out there being honest. But the thing is, you have to validate these people. You can't believe a thing they say. You should never, ever, ever, ever trust a single person who wants authority over your life. Never. Don't trust them for a second. Demand proof of everything they claim. So, Jim Justice is going to be your U.S. Senator. Take that home with you. That's awesome. Mr. Coprophiliac playing with poop and on TV and calling your legislators names and mocking them and, shuffling around saying crazy things about just madness. But Jim Justice is going to be your U.S. Senator. You know why? Because we didn't try hard enough. Because we didn't work hard enough at convincing people that this was a bad idea. That's why. I understand some of you are probably sitting there going, well, election cheating and stuff. All that it's probably part of the problem. But let's talk about the root problem. The root problem is we don't try hard enough. We are not engaged enough. There are not enough of us engaged. My friend today who told me you can't win, when I told him that if good men would simply vote for the men that should win rather than the men they think will win, then I would win. And he chuckled and he said, that's true, but there just aren't enough good men. I said, I disagree. I think in West Virginia, there are plenty of good men. You understand, men here refers to, men, women, all human beings who are able to vote. So I said, I disagree. I think there are plenty of good men in West Virginia. The problem is they all see things the way you do. And because you are a leader in the community, they listen when you say this, that we have to vote for the guy who can win instead of the guy who should win. We have to change that dynamic, folks, or we're going to end up in a lot of trouble. We're already in a lot of trouble. All right. So, House of Representatives, 1st Congressional District, that's Southern West Virginia. You guys had a chance to get a guy who actually went to prison because he stood up for what he believed was right. But instead, we've got Carol Miller. Carol Miller, the lady who, as the majority whip in the House of Delegates, told me that my job was to sit quietly and vote the way the majority leader does. Congratulations. You have a congresswoman who sits quietly and votes the way the majority leader does in the U.S. Congress. Doesn't represent you. She represents the majority leader. So good on you. And hey, how many Moores do we have bouncing around out there? Riley Moore. Riley Moore with a wide percentage there in the 2nd Congressional District, which is Northern West Virginia. We had a couple of guys on there who were fine gentlemen, and we've got another Moore. So that dynasty is going to continue to grow unless we do something about it. You guys are big on political dynasties, right? You like that? You like that? You want see, I have this theory. I believe that West Virginian culture actually is friendly to an aristocratic political class. Think Birds, think Moore, Shelley Moore Capito, Raleigh Moore, of course, Shelley's dad, who was governor, Arch Moore, and you got the Birds, and then you got, apparently, the Warners are building a nice little political dynasty here. But West Virginians seem to be okay with that. I personally find that to be a serious problem and an indicator that we're just not paying attention to who we're electing to office. All right, governor. So here's the thing. A lot of people I know made their decision on who to vote for simply because Moore Capito was in the race. I just went through a whole litany of why Moore Capito shouldn't have been our gubernatorial candidate, and I agree. He shouldn't have been, and I'm glad he's not. On the other hand, I know a lot of people who voted for someone whom they despise because he's better than Moore Capito. I have bad news for you. He's not. He's not better. And here's the bad part. He's wearing your uniform. All right? So, you've all heard the arguments I made about Jim Justice being a Republican. He's out there doing the same things a Democrat would, or even worse, a leftist, statist, authoritarian. But he gets a pass because he's a Republican, whatever that means. All right. So look forward to having, unless we beat him, look forward to having basically the same thing with Pat. All right. Secretary of State, Chris Warner. Once again, the Warners are building a political dynasty, and I don't know what it is you think we're going to do about it other than we have to engage. We have to win elections. We have to hold these people accountable. We have to fire them. Okay. I did find it amusing that Doug Scaff, running as a Republican, Doug Scaff, who used to be the Democrat majority leader or minority leader in the House of Delegates, running as a Republican, came in second place in that race. So that says a lot to you about what's actually going on there. All right, auditor. We had a lady who went to jail. Right? Because she upheld the principles of the Constitution and accountable governance. And because she did that, she should have won. I mean, you want somebody auditing the state who actually understands how to stand up for what's right. And we had that available, and we told her no thank you. What is this? Treasurer. Why is there only one person running for treasurer? Why is there only one person running for any office? Competition makes the world go round. Right? Let's make them fight for it. Commissioner of Agriculture, Kent Leonhardt. Kent is a very capable manager of government programs for agriculture. Roy Ramey, the guy I endorsed, has no interest in government programs for anything and actually just wants to have food liberty. We had a dichotomy there, and we chose the authoritarian statist. So there you go. Now, Josh Higginbotham, I served with him in the House of Delegates, actually came in second place with 30% of the vote. Who decided that was a good idea? Anyway, so Attorney General Mike Stewart. I support Mike Stewart because when I asked him the same question that I asked Patrick Morrisey, so Patrick Morrisey is our Attorney General. I took Jim Justice. I filed paperwork. I petitioned for a writ of mandamus from the West Virginia Supreme Court of Appeals to compel Jim Justice to stop tyrannizing, stop usurping the authority of the legislature of West Virginia, and to actually do his job according to the Constitution. Patrick Morrisey defended him. He went into the West Virginia Supreme Court of Appeals and said, this Wilson guy's nuts. He just makes this stuff up because he likes attention. Actually, what I really want is to be left alone, but they won't leave me alone. They won't leave you alone. They keep poking us in the eyes, which is why I'm doing this. Somebody's got to poke back. So anyway, I went to him and I said, hey, is there a particular reason that you are defending the tyrant governor as he engages in his tyrannical behavior? And he said, well, it's my job as the Attorney General. It's my constitutional duty to defend the state from all legal actions. And I said, is it? He said, yes, my job is to defend the government against all legal actions. I said, is it your job to defend the government against the people who created that government for their own purposes when they try to hold that government accountable? He said, yes. I said, so when the government, in the person of the governor, is behaving in a tyrannical manner and no one else in the government is doing anything about it, it is your job to defend that tyranny. And he said, yes. Patrick Morrisey. So a couple of years later, Mike Stewart is running for Attorney General, and I grabbed him at one of these events we ran into each other at. I said, hey, Mike, is it your job as the Attorney General to defend the government against all legal actions? And he said, well, yeah, I'm basically the state's state's attorney. And I said, okay. But what if it's the people who bring suit against the state, against the government, state government, because they believe the state government is depriving them of the free exercise of their rights? And he goes, oh, well, no. I mean, it's the Attorney General's job to ensure that the state is functioning within the Constitution. That's why I support Mike Stewart, because Mike Stewart said, no, it's not my job to defend tyranny. It's my job to call it out and to hold them accountable for it as the Attorney General. So unfortunately, we got J.B. McCuskey, who's a really nice guy. I've worked with him. I like him, but he is not on your side. He believes that the government is smarter than you, that he's smarter than you because you elected him. And so it's the government's job to tell you how to live. All right, State Senator, 1st District. We had a great opportunity to send Ryan Weld home. You guys do your research on Ryan Weld and see how nice it would have been if he had no longer been part of our Senate. And Scott Adams, I met him up there in the Northern Panhandle. Outstanding gentleman. Unfortunately, our friends up there apparently did not engage and help Scott out enough. Chris Rose, that is outstanding. 2nd Senatorial District, Chris Rose sent Mike Maroney home. And I have nothing else to say about it. That's outstanding. Mike Maroney needs to go home. Why is no one running against Donna Boley in the 3rd District? Is she really that fantabulous? I think she needs to compete for her seat. Amy Grady, 4th Senatorial District, same thing. They need to compete. All right, 5th Senatorial District. If I remember, Scott Fuller is pretty much okay. So he won. I actually backed John Mathis. I have my reasons for that. But I think Scott Fuller is going to be all right. 6th Senatorial District, Craig Hart took out Chandler Swope. Boy, did Chandler Swope need to go home. I'm so glad he's retired now. Craig Hart is going to do a fantastic job down there. He is a cowboy. He's an agriculture teacher in high school, and he is crazy about liberty. He's just crazy sometimes. Let's go on down. You've already heard my complaint about people not being challenged. 11th Senatorial District, Bob Carnes has been retired. This is a serious blow. Bob Carnes is a good man. I really enjoyed working with him in the legislature, and he is the guy. He is the guy. Now, you'll hear Jim Justice claim that he did this, but it was Bob Carnes who actually put this into action, trying to get rid of the state income tax. Bob Carnes did that. You have him to thank for that, but Jim Justice likes to claim credit for it because that's what Jim does. Keep going down here. 15th Senatorial District. Can I get an amen? Craig Blair has been retired. Thank God. I wish it had been Mike Folk who retired him, but Tom Willis did. And frankly, it's kind of a surprise to me that I really had just gone ahead and decided that with two opponents, Craig was probably going to pull off the win in this thing. And I am shocked and awed that that did not happen. I'm really glad to see that. 16th Senatorial District. Former, I don't know, Paul Espinoza was in the leadership of the House of Delegates for quite a while. And he challenged Patricia Rucker, and Patricia managed to pull off, what is that, about a 230 vote win. That's important for us. Patricia Rucker has stood up and fought for us a number of times. Frankly, I wish that she would fight a little harder, but I don't think she feels like she has the backing she needs. So getting Craig out of the way should help her out a lot. 17th Senatorial District, Eric Nelson pulled that one off. That's a shame. Chris Pritt is a fine gentleman. Although, I'm not a big fan of attorneys, but you'll find more than we need in Charleston. And but Chris is a good guy, and I was really rooting for him. Unfortunately, he didn't manage to pull it off. First House District, Pat McGeehan, shoe-in. Fourth Delegate District, that's up in Eastern Panhandle. Diana Wisenreed was defeated by Bill Flanagan pretty handily. So that's good news. Rick Atkinson, District 15, House District 15. It's time for Rick to spend a little more time at home with his family. Delegate District 16, we have Happy Joe Parsons. I don't really know much about him, but Happy Joe. Glad to see Jim Butler coming back. He didn't have a challenger. He should have. I mean, they need to fight for this, but I think Jim fighting for his seat would probably come back with it. And I'm sure he knows that there were some good people out in his district who didn't pay attention to all the shiny stuff, even though they weren't members of any particular party, who voted for him because they respect him, because generally speaking, he's a really good man. 27th District, I just saw this. Jeff Maynard did not win. Michael Amos beat Jeff Maynard. Jeff's a pretty good guy. Samantha Stevens in the 28th. I was also hoping to see her win. She did not. Ryan Browning pulled that one off. District 29, Henry Corby Dillon. You guys got to get to know this guy. You need to pay attention to this guy, what he's doing down there in Charleston. Corby is a school teacher, and he is a good man. And he stands up for what's right, even when it's hard for him, even when it puts him in a bad position, even when it hurts his friends' feelings. He's hurt my feelings once or twice. I know y'all think I don't have any, but I think the world of Corby, and he pulled this off handily, and he's a good man. I'm just really glad to see him going back. Mark Dean in the 34th. Looks like he won pretty handily as well against two opponents. Roy Cooper. I think Roy's ready to go home and leave the people of West Virginia alone. It's time for him to go spend more time at home. Unfortunately, he won pretty handily against Jonathan Fain. Jonathan's a good man. And I realize I'm missing some here. There's some friends of mine who merit attention, merit mention, but frankly, I'm just trying to get through this thing and trying not to comment on every single one because you know me, I would. But the primary comment here is, you guys, do you realize how many people ran unopposed? Why are they doing that? Why are we allowing that? Laura McGinnis in the 62nd district put up a valiant fight, but Roger Hanshaw, Speaker of the House, just has too many connections, too much money, too much standing in the community, and he is going to continue to run roughshod over your rights. But fortunately, we fired his partner in crime, Craig Blair. So hopefully we can make something happen there. Hopefully we can put the quietus on him. I'll tell you what, you make me your governor, and I will put the quietus on this stuff. I will hold them accountable. I will point out their actions. I will let you know about it. And I will veto anything that comes against your rights. Chris Phillips, that is good news. He won handily in District 68. Chris is a pretty good gentleman. He has stood up, and I do mean gentleman. He's not a madman like I am. He is always very gracious to everyone, and I'm glad to see that he won. Toby Heaney in 76. I was really looking for a win from him. Yeah, it really was a fairly close race. It was 90 votes more or less. 92 vote difference, I guess. And I think he would have been a good job. Frankly, I don't know John Dodds. Maybe John will do a great job, but I know that Toby would have. There is no Republican candidate who filed in the 79th delegate district. They just surrendered on this one. Guys, come on. Come on. You got to be kidding me. No candidate filed in the 81st district. Buck Jennings is back in the 84th. That's good news. Buck was one of the gentlemen who tried to help me. It was Jim Butler, Buck Jennings. I think there was one other, and Tom Bibby, and I tried to hold the Intelligence Fusion Center accountable to the Constitution, and of course we were all thrown aside and ignored and stuff. Also, I speaking of Tom Bibby, I forgot to mention earlier that although I was the lead on the action to take Jim Justice to the West Virginia Supreme Court of Appeals, Tom Bibby, Jim Butler, and Tony Painter, delegates, were also involved in that, and we had a senator, a state senator, who was engaged. I don't remember if it was Bob Carnes or Bob Azinger, so one of those two. But anyway, I wasn't by myself. Delegate District 91. That is my home district. I am very glad to see Don Forst being retired. He's the guy who sends out all the flyers and tells you that he's super conservative and then votes to kill babies and to give your money to Bill Gates and the Chinese Communist Party. But, he's one of them, but he's the one from District 91 who does that. So I'm very glad to see him retired, but I seriously have some qualms about Mr. DeSoto. And we'll just have to work through that. Mr. DeSoto is the one who actually won the primary. We'll have to see about it. Basically, from District 92 through District 94, You've got party apparatchiks, nothing to look for there. Lisa White in 96, outstanding, Lisa. Funny thing is, I actually ran into Lisa the day before the primary at a coffee shop. Just kind of bumped into her, and she told me that she thought she was going to do well. Now, speaking of Mad Men, Chris Anders. Chris Anders pulled off a handy win in the 97th district. I'm really glad to see that. And I really look forward to watching Chris as he tries to clean up the Republican Party. That would be really nice. He's the sort of guy who could do it. Just hope he's maintained his interest in doing it now that he is actually going to be a delegate. Barb Fuller, it's a shame she couldn't pull off a win in the 98th. Keep an eye on Joe Funkhauser. He's an interesting character. Was really looking for a win for Daphne Andrews in the 99th. Wayne Clark needs to go home and stay home and learn how to talk to people. And then in the 100th, Bill Ridenour running against no one, so no surprise there. Of course, Joe Biden is the pick for the Dems. Would have been interesting if Tom Blankenship had won the Democrat primary for senator. Their candidate for governor, I don't know if y'all know who he is. He is currently the mayor of Huntington. So if you like what's going on in Huntington, vote for Steve Williams for governor, because I'm sure he would love to make the rest of the state look like Huntington. Not really a lot to say about the Democrat side of the House or the Senate for that matter. So Chris Anders censored your posts. I'm sorry to hear that, Carolyn. You should take it up with him. I know where you can find him. But meanwhile, he is the guy who won that election, that primary. All right, I'm going to look through your notes here real quick and see what's going on here. Two of my brothers skipped the primary. They refused to accept that they need to pick who is in the fall. Bob, I don't know what to say about that. I mean, I make that point to people and they're like, oh, well, I'll vote in November. I'll vote in the big one. Well, in the big one, you only get to vote for the people that the corporate entities have handed you. But, this year it'll be different because y'all are going to send a madman into the fray. Marie, thank you, Marie. That's very sweet of you. Laura. Sherry, you make a good point. Let's look at what Sherry's saying here. So let's talk about this. I see what Sherry's saying here as a function of what I was saying earlier about how people want to vote for the guy they think is going to win. They want to be on the winning team. This guy's going to win, and so I'm going to vote for him. One way that they convince you that they're going to win is they send you more stuff. They spend more money. So they literally buy your vote. Okay. I just want to know, in West Virginia, can your vote be bought or does it have to be earned? Because I will take a bullet to the face to secure your natural rights. It's that simple. Now, whoever can buy the most glossy stuff and mail it out to you, I'm not sure that's actually a test for their validity as a public servant. So I agree with you there, Sherry. It's a shame, but we have to change that dynamic because I don't have any money. All I've got is principles, a message, a good team behind me, and a lot of hard work. And I need help. I need help bad. I need y'all. And I need y'all to recruit your friends to help me. All right, so hey, Rose, good to see you. Carolyn, voter turnout was a little over 30%. Laura makes an excellent point here. Okay, so I made the point a while ago that I believe that West Virginians actually want an aristocracy. I mean, I do. I was campaigning down in the southern part of the state, and in 2020, and I said, "Hey, I'm Marshall. I'm running for governor." And more than once, when I said, "I'm Marshall. I'm running for governor," I would get, "Well, I'm Big Jim Man." Okay, so you support Jim Justice for governor? Yep. Can you tell me why? Well, he's one of us. I said, okay. Well, the guy's the only billionaire in the state. He has run 4 or 5 businesses in your local area out of business, destroyed family businesses, and driven people to the poorhouse because he won't pay his bills to them. But somehow he's one of you. Hmm. Well, yeah, I said, okay. Well, actually, from my perspective, he is I have a term for people like this. I call them opportunistic authoritarians. And what that means is the only thing they really believe in is they want to be in charge, right? So I can handle someone who actually believes something different from what I believe, or even something the diametric opposite of what I believe. I can handle that. You can have a conversation with that person. You can deal with them. But someone who just insists on being in charge and throws fits and makes fun of people and writes checks to get what he wants. There's how do you the only way you can fight that is by pointing out to people that that's what's happening, and trust in their wisdom and intellect to see what's going on and go, I don't want any of that. No, thank you. I don't want any more, dog butts on TV. I don't want to see my governor playing with poop on TV, cow poop, making stupid jokes about being eaten by, Frankenstein or whatever. I want somebody who's going to be serious and look at the issues and deal with them and understand constitutional requirements and mandates and actually follow them and follow them happily because they are there to keep us all free. That's what I want. I don't want, dog butt guy. And when I bring that to their attention and I say the guy is actually an opportunistic authoritarian, just a guy who throws fits and plays games and writes checks so he can be in charge, and they say, well, maybe, but he's our guy. Folks, we have to engage our neighbors and help them understand why that's destructive. This guy is a tax cheat. He's a liar. He's a bully. He's a clown, but he's our tax cheat, bully, and clown. All right. So we're going to vote for him. We have to counter that message, and we have to counter it with something so winsome, so compelling, so strong that they can't hold on to that idea anymore. And it's okay because we have that. Our message is liberty, and we can deliver our message with joy. We don't have to walk around talking about how stupid everybody else is. We don't have to walk around pointing out everybody else's little issues, whatever it is. Wilson's short. He's got a big round face. He's got one eye that's bigger than the other. Okay, none of that's relevant to the issue. The issue is who can actually analyze the problems in this state, bring together a team to develop a plan, and then implement the plan to deal with those problems. I haven't seen anybody who can do it yet. So send me and let me demonstrate how that's done. But the problem is you got all these people who, so I've studied government, history, societies, philosophy, religion, for years, organizational leadership for decades. And so the ancient Celts, my people, the ancient Celts had this concept of a little petty tyrant king in every little, wide spot in the road and every little valley, every holler, whatever. And then as you move up the line, there's another king who's in charge of a region of wide spots in the road. And then there's another king up to the great king. And the thing is, the word of each one of them was law. I got to tell you, traveling around West Virginia, I've seen the same dynamic at work. Yeah, well, old Bubba over here, that's great. Bubba might be your petty tyrant around here, but here's the thing: we all have the same set of rights, and Bubba has a right to express his intent, but nobody else has to, is compelled to agree with him. You have the same right. Anyway, it's really fascinating to me that I've met folks here who will simply decide that's our guy. He's in our club, the Republicans, the Democrats, the whatever. He's from our part of the state, whatever, as if any of that matters. What matters is the character, the nature, the capabilities, the intent, the purpose of the person, of the candidate. And no one seems to be interested in any of that, except maybe a few of my friends, most of whom are probably here right now. Rose says it's not over yet. November is coming, and I agree, except that that really only applies to the one case where we have an outside candidate running. Now you got some libertarians. I need to go back and look at where the libertarians have candidates, because West Virginia Libertarian Party generally turns out some pretty good candidates. I know that we've got Erica Klee-Kalinich, who is running for governor, and I respect her. She's an intelligent, capable lady. We disagree on some issues of policy, but frankly, I'd be proud to work with her anytime, anywhere. I think she's got her head screwed on straight. But really, other than the governor race, I don't know of a place where November is going to make any difference. You know, you've got a Republican supermajority. The West Virginia Republican Party pretty much runs politics in the state. So I appreciate you, Rose, and I don't mean to be a negative Nell. And if I'm wrong, tell me. But that's basically the way that I see it. Morrissey didn't understand the question. So it's your job to defend tyranny. Yes. Okay. So he didn't understand that question there, Scott. Huh? That's what Scott says. Scott's a funny guy. Carolyn, I don't know what yah means. Here we go. Now, I don't know if y'all know who know Carolyn here, Carolyn McCabe Guglielmo. She has had a lot of experience in a lot of different places, and I'm not going to try to give you her background. I'll let her do that one day. Y'all can do that offline. If somebody wants to contact her and find out who she is, you can find her pretty easily on Facebook. But Carolyn says we have to do a better job identifying people to lead. Yes. And what do we do when we identify them? We compel them to run. See, the thing is, I keep talking to people around the state, and I say, we need to find a better guy to run in this district. And they say, well, there is a better guy, but he doesn't want to run. You don't understand. That's a qualification. That's a qualification. The person who says, no, I don't want to do this, that's a point in their favor. Anybody who wants to be involved in politics should immediately and permanently be disqualified from ever being involved in politics. Let me say that again. Anyone who wants to be engaged in politics as a candidate, anyone who wants political power or authority, should immediately and permanently be removed from consideration for all time. Okay, so what we've got to do is identify people who don't want to run, who have the character, the nature, the capabilities, and the intent that we need, and then we have to compel them to run. It's critical, folks. Carolyn says people who'd rather go hunt, fish, and watch ball games and step up for their communities and states. I think that's kind of a negative way to look at it, Carolyn. I understand what you're saying here, but I think that really the way to look at that is people who want to have normal lives and be left alone. They want to be with their families. They want to go to work and do a good job. They want to, go to their kids' functions at school, ball games or whatever. And they want to go hunting and fishing. All of that is good, normal, honorable behavior. And it's not that they don't want to step up for their communities and states. It's just that there are other people who are more willing, and they would like to be able to trust these people who seem to, based on their self-reporting, be more qualified. I mean, if you ever look at the stuff that Patrick Morrissey sends out or the things he says about himself, he's super dude. He can do everything, right? His self-reporting, his what do they call it? His personal reporting of who he is and what he's done is fascinating. And, some of it actually is based on reality. But it's fascinating stuff. So, yeah, what Carolyn's saying here, I understand basically what you're getting at, but I don't think it's that people don't care about their communities and states. I think it's that they want to live quiet, normal lives, which is actually a virtue, wanting to live a quiet, normal life. But they have to understand we are engaged in a political war here, a political revolution, and we don't have the right to not step up. We don't have that right, because if we fail in this political revolution, our children and our grandchildren will be fighting a shooting war. And that's if they aren't just completely overwhelmed immediately. So I'm not the guy to come out and say a bunch of crazy stuff and talk about it's the end of the world or anything. I'm just telling you, this is how liberty is maintained. All right. Thank you, Bear, for answering the question about voter turnout. This is my home county, Berkeley County, 17.8%. Good God Almighty. Bear, thank you for encouraging Laura. I agree. She should keep up the fight. Tony, I'm not sure what you're saying no way about, but I'm willing to address it if you can help me out. Help me figure out what it is we're talking about. Laura, I think you're talking about Chris Anders here, and I agree. I took his class. He actually helped me get elected the first time. Of course, I was a Republican at the time. But I really hope that he is capable of maintaining his focus on the principles and not on party politics. I have some questions about that based on some things I've seen recently. But I really hope Chris lives up to who he had me convinced that he was until these recent events. I like him. I enjoy the man. I like being around him, but he's introduced some concerns, and we'll just see how it plays out. Okay, Carolyn, we must do an education process now of our voters. I understand what you're saying here, but the thing is, do you have proposals for how that can be done? Anything other than what we're already doing? I drive around the state, thousands of miles. I talk to wherever will listen. I do this thing once a week. Whenever we can afford it, we buy a little bit of airtime. I take anytime somebody wants to interview me, I'm happy to go on the air. I've got friends who get the message and know how to communicate it. But, aside from getting a lot of money and buying a lot of airtime and buying venues and setting up meetings, I don't know what else to do. But I'm always willing to learn. Yes, the primary is most important. Absolutely agree, Carolyn. Kyle, I am profoundly disappointed in the available candidates, in the engagement of the electorate. As a matter of fact, I have been pretty bummed out all day today. And I got to tell you, it takes a lot to bum me out. I'm a pretty upbeat guy, long as my parachute opens and I've got a few rounds left over, I can handle just about anything. But this and that phone call I got today telling me that my good friend is supporting the other guy in my election in November really tore me down a lot today. That's all right. Sorry, we'll get it back. Carolyn says it's not a gamble and we have to figure out how to modify behavior. Well, Carolyn, I think the only valid means of modifying other people's behavior is by providing them the information they need to make better decisions. If you have more input on that, I'm willing to listen, but I'm not willing to manipulate people, lie to them, overstate things, threaten them, endanger them. I'm not willing to do any of that. But I am willing to work really hard to get the message to them. And I believe that if I can communicate the message as well as it deserves, that it will change hearts and minds. Because everybody wants to be free, even if they think they don't. Well, Laura, that's true. Unfortunately, I don't know of any lobby groups that want to mail things out for me. Uh, yeah, I haven't seen any mailing things out against me yet. I think they're just basically ignoring me right now, which, frankly, in politics, maybe even a bigger damage to our efforts just being ignored. Uh, Marie, it will never cease to amaze me that he was ever elected governor. And just what's gone on since then stuns me. I mean, how many of these people have actually met this guy face to face? I, good God. Laura, again, with another excellent insight. They think the federal government can fix us. Have they met the federal government? Federal government can't fix anything. Um, there you go. Carolyn sums it up nicely. Policy and principles are important. I would say for the person, you say not personality, and I understand what you're getting there, but character, nature, capabilities are all important. Can you do the job? If you get the job, are you likely to do it the right way? Um, and then what do you really believe? All of that has some bearing on how you do the job, which is why it's important, not for any other reason. And then, of course, your specific policies. I agree with you. Sherry, do I think Patrick Morrissey will debate me? No, Patrick Morrissey, when an average citizen says something on his Facebook page, refuses to answer the person on their Facebook page and instead says, "Why don't you call me privately? Let's have a quiet conversation about that. And I can convince you that everything is cool." Uh, no, he's not going to debate me publicly. He'll have to be compelled to, and the only people who can compel him are the citizens of West Virginia. He's going to do everything he can to avoid it because he knows me. More mailers. Well, Barrett worked this time. Why wouldn't it work in general? All he's got to do is mail mailers. All it takes is money, right? Just a lot of money, and you can win an election. And he's already proven that. So why would he change his tactics? Okay, Laura, I'm not real sure what you're talking about here, but okay, I've seen stuff like that. I literally have seen where people say, "Well, I'm going to vote for so and so because I saw him at the grocery store." I see a lot of people at the grocery store that I don't want to vote for. I see a few that I actually do. Matter of fact, there's a young man who works at our grocery store here, the food line, and he is always on it. He's always right where he needs to be, doing what he needs to do. And I know that because actually I get to hang out with him every now and then. He goes to our church too. I agree, Carolyn. But again, I don't want to be the guy, getting all verklempt over things. I just want to talk about what we can do from here. What can we change? So let me tell you all a quick story. So I was a lieutenant in the mechanized infantry, and we were at the National Training Center near Death Valley, and it was hot. It was real hot. It was summertime in the desert, and we were training, and we went through an exercise and an operation, and the observer controller, who is basically my grader and trainer, comes to me and says, "Hey, Lieutenant, tell me what happened here and tell me what you'd like to do about it next time." And I explained how the tank company commander that I was working with ordered me to do things that my Bradley infantry fighting vehicles were completely incapable of doing. Like physics didn't allow it, you know. And I was pretty wound up about it. And he goes, yeah. I heard all that. The question is, what can you affect at your level? That's our question. Starting here, starting today, with what we have, with the people we have, the opportunities we have, the capabilities we have, what can we do from here? All right, that's what we need to know. And I would like for you, I'm humbly asking you to consider how you can help me to get into a position where I can serve you aggressively under the Constitution. So there it is right there. Thanks, Todd, putting up that link. Click on that link and help me get there so that I can serve you. Rose says, if nothing else comes out of this, she's proud of her two nieces. One's a magistrate in Kanawha County and one in Putnam County. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. If they're anything like you, that could be a good thing for Putnam and Kanawha counties. Yeah, I know, Bear. I know you're a Berkeley guy. And I just, it's embarrassing. Well, Tony, I'm honored that you think so. And I would, I'll do whatever it takes to make you proud. I will stand up for the Constitution, and I will work my tail off to be worthy of that. Hire a constitutional attorney. Okay, Laura, I love you to death. You know I do. Hire with what? We have no money. We have no money. That would be great. I've heard her speak a number of times, and she's pretty engaging, but we have no money. Roger Zachariason's on here. That's awesome. Good point. Perhaps campaigning more audaciously, excuse me, make it harder to ignore you. Well, Roger, I tell you what, I am open to recommendations. What I won't do is I won't lie. I won't cheat. I won't steal. I won't try to manipulate people, and I won't threaten people. But audacious is my middle name. Actually, my middle name is Marshall, but it has come to mean audacious. As a matter of fact, audacity as a military principle was. I had a battalion commander in the Army who said that Wilson thinks it's the only military principle, audacity, but that's not really true. But it was kind of funny. So I'm all about audacious, dude, but it's got to be right and true, not just crazy. Educate the mailers, bull BS, marketing as commercials, no truth. Yeah, I mean, it's just some guy's claims about himself. Who cares? I mean, I put my bio and my work history out there because I'm applying for a job, and my prospective employers have a right to know these things about me. But I don't take pictures of my family in their uniforms because I'm not the only one in my family in uniform, and show them around and say, vote for me. My wife's service is wonderful, but that's not why you should vote for me. If anything, she doesn't deserve this mess because she has served so honorably for so long. But anyway, that's just silly, that kind of stuff. Where are we? A sound truck. Roger, I'm looking at this. For me, the issue is that I personally, if someone were driving a sound truck around my neighborhood, I would not be inclined to support that person. I would be inclined to despise that person for being such an annoying jerk and imposing on my time by doing that. Now, if you have a different perspective on it, I can understand that. Maybe I spent too much time in South America where that's basically the only way people campaign, but I hate noise intruding on my thoughts. But that's probably just me. That might work for other people. I need volunteers from each county. Well, that's a great point, Catherine. And of course, as a member of our campaign team, you are very aware of who's working with us and where each of those people is from, and where we have big holes in our campaign team. And I tell you what, anybody who would like to help us win and not just sign the petition, that's great. I mean, that is, your vote is sacred, and your signature is a vote to put me on the ballot. That is sacred. And I'm honored by every single signature that we collect. But we need more. we need 4,000 more at a minimum. And if you would, just contact Catherine right there. Get a hold of Catherine Moles and say, hey, I want to help out. I am willing to engage in the team. I'm willing to collect signatures. I'm willing to, help out with administrative details. Whatever it is you do, we need you. We need you. And frankly, I've gotten to the point where I can't keep all the balls in the air. And we've got a great team, Catherine and Todd, who's running this meeting here, and probably a couple other people, Scott, who are on this particular discussion, are actual members of my team. And they're great, but we're working our tails off and we're not getting it all done. And what we really need is representation at different events. So if we can have people go to events in their area and represent us well and just present the message and then ask for signatures, that would be great. And if there aren't any events that you know of, get a hold of Catherine and say, I want to host an event, and we'll figure out how to make that happen. Yeah, Todd's got the volunteer link up again. That's great. But Catherine's right. We need help. Please help us. We have the only message, liberty, the only message. The government exists to secure your natural rights and those of your children. And if you will forgive me if this sounds arrogant, we have a faithful messenger of that message. It's me, but it's not about me. It's about the message. Okay. Carolyn, that's very gracious of you. I know that you have been engaged in a lot of different political fights, so it means a lot coming from you. Thank you. Yep. There's Catherine backing me up on that. We need people who can show up where I can't and just carry the message. Yeah, Sherry, I appreciate that. So Sherry's in Harrison County, and she and I have had a chance to hang out a few times, and she's willing to help out a lot. Roger, that is awesome. You want to hear a funny story about the Strawberry Festival? Put it on my calendar. I realize it's like a week-long event. Put it on my calendar, and the other day I went out there. But apparently it wasn't happening yet. It was like some sort of an organizational meeting. So I drove out to the Strawberry Festival and went to a nice coffee shop and, had a little breakfast sandwich and a cup of coffee and met some nice people, and then moved my way on down to, where did I go after that, Catherine? I went from the Strawberry Festival in Preston County down to, not Preston County, where was it? Anyway, I drove 4 hours from there, I think, and it was a big day. All right, guys, it's been over an hour. I am really honored by your presence. And for my friends who are going to listen to this later, I am really grateful for your time and your interest. And, the bottom line is we have to engage other people to get them to engage in this effort because so many people have given up. So many people have just decided it doesn't matter. There's nothing I can do. So please help out. Thank you, Sherry. Catherine, would you take that information down from Sherry? And guys, I'm going to have to let you go. I really enjoy hanging out with you, and I look forward to next week. And please invite me out to your part of the state. I'll come out and we'll hang out, and we'll drink coffee and make fun of each other. It'll be great. Yes, we actually have banners and signs. We just need to get them distributed. We have quite a few of them. So y'all get a hold of Catherine. And I really appreciate y'all. Marie, thank you for the encouragement. You are always terribly encouraging, especially in person. So I'm going to let y'all go, but thank you for your time. Good night.